Welcome in to the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 Network, and welcome to Stadium Pulse. We're talking college football for the next hour. We got a lot to get to today, a lot of topics in a otherwise mundane offseason, and yes, we're going to talk about a few more things other than Bill Belichick's relationship. It might be the only thing going on college football shows right now, but it will not be here today. Yes, his nice 24-year-old girlfriend has an $8 million real estate portfolio that she's built in the last couple of months, but that's not for us here today. This is the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 Network. We've got top quarterbacks in next year's NFL draft for you today. That kind of plays off of when we did our top 10 quarterbacks returning to college football. That was about, when was that, Nick? When did we do that? Where I had Nussmeier 1 overall on my quarterbacks returning. Was it about 6 weeks ago?
That sounds about right.
Okay, yeah, and so when we get to quarterbacks that could potentially be in next year's first round of the NFL draft, so no, Lagway cannot be included, although you all know how high I am on him. He's throwing, by the way. We mentioned that to you last Friday. We'll have that. We'll have the non-QBs that could be going in the top 10 next year. We got Clay Helton is back in the news and doing something good for college football, at least good in my opinion. We've got some Georgia recruiting latest, including an update on the number 1 2026 quarterback, Jared Curtis. He's set to make his decision in just a few days. And we got a whole lot more. So lock in for us next hour. YB400, always the first in the chat. So we appreciate him each and every week. Uncle Bill got him a rich. Yep. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. But we're going to save that, YB. We're going to save that for another time. All right, so obviously the draft is in the books, right? We talked about it last week in the first round that Cam Ward goes, Jackson Dart goes. Those are the only 2 quarterbacks that go in the first round. Consensus, it was a down year for quarterbacks heading to the NFL, right? Obviously, Shedeur falls. We got that whole story. Dylan Gabriel goes in the 3rd round, but there wasn't a lot of guys. And I want you to think about going into the college football season last fall. So say we're in August of 2024, where you would have put the quarterback class then. It probably would have been led by Carson Beck at the time. Obviously, what unfolds is what unfolds. Cam Ward has a monster season. He goes 1 overall. Regardless, it's still seen as one of the worst quarterback draft classes in recent history. All right, so immediately after the draft, you guys know how it works. We're already getting the way too early mock drafts for 2026. And I wanted to bring some names that I saw come to the table time in and time out. Across all of the ones that I looked at, Arch Manning was a consensus top 10 pick. And that has prompted the talk all week. Perhaps the 2 topics of the week were Bill Belichick and Arch Manning and his future. All right. And where you're at is Arch Manning a lock to come out of the draft next year? How good does he have to play, or does it even matter? Being with how the Mannings are about draft stock and fit, going all the way back to Eli. If Arch Manning throws for 4,000 yards, 30 tuds, adds another 8 on the ground, and throws 10 picks, is he a lock to even come out of the draft then? I don't know. I don't know is my answer. Here's what I thought was crazy. Okay, half of the coverage on maybe half is a stretch, but it was insane how many times I'm watching the NFL draft last week. And Arch Manning's the talk. Arch Manning's picture is on there. As if to say, and they're hinting all of the time, that these NFL GMs are drafting based off of Arch Manning. Right? That the Giants are not going to take a quarterback at 3 because it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if they tank this year, get the number 1 overall pick, and Arch Manning's theirs. And then it's Eli 2.0. First of all, I can't guarantee anything. I don't think there's any shot in the world that's really even crossing the minds of NFL GMs yet. You can't tank for a full season. There's no way to guarantee that you get the number 1 overall pick. And even if you could, I don't know if Arch Manning's even coming out. Arch Manning could say, look, I want 2 full years. Because the most realistic thing that could happen, and I'm an Arch Manning believer, okay? But the most realistic thing that could happen is that Arch takes some lumps this year. He's not going to come in coming off of playing a couple of drives last year, and maybe he could. He's talented enough. But is it realistic to think that he's going to put up first overall type numbers and stats at Texas this year? It might take him a year. Not saying he's going to, he's going to be a bottom of the SEC type quarterback, but I'm just saying we're almost acting as if because of his last name, because of the high school tape, because of the 5-star that's next to his name, that he's automatically going to throw for 4,000 yards and only throw 7 picks. It's just probably not going to happen in the SEC. So if he throws for 25 with 12 picks and shows flashes of being an unbelievable player, but he loses a game at home that he shouldn't, or he loses even a game on the road that he shouldn't, it doesn't matter. It's not a lock that he's coming out. Yet, Nick, I want to bring you in here. Every single mock draft I saw, one of these way too early 2026s, had Arch Manning going 1 overall. To whether it was the Giants, I saw one they said, hey, kick dart to the curb real quick. We're taking Arch Manning 1 overall. I saw every single one of these had Manning going either 1 or 2. And I just don't think it's a lock that he's coming out.
Yeah, especially if the season's not as good as he thinks it might be, or will want at the end and his draft grade drops. Yeah, he's going to stay back because he may end up losing money. Like Shador, if Shador stayed, he's going to make more money staying another year in college.
Absolutely.
To prove that he's actually a first-round pick. And maybe in a year, all of his pre-draft stuff is not as bad. Thus, he doesn't drop to the 4th to the Browns. Maybe he actually stays. His draft stock's fine. There could be a lesson in the end for Arch from Shador's thing to stay if the season's not that good. I don't expect Texas to not do good. I mean, 10-2 is probably the absolute floor for those guys.
Sure.
But Arch is he's a young guy. He's not started a ton. And he's still got a hard schedule ahead of him. I mean, they start with, Ohio State?
Right, yeah.
And, we were probably thinking in rivalry week with the loss to Michigan that, Ohio State wasn't going to do anything and probably weren't a playoff team. Lo and behold, we all found out pretty fast exactly what Ohio State was made of.
That's true.
He's going to have a hard schedule. And then he gets into SEC play. I mean, is Manning really cut of the Manning cloth, and is he worth the salt?
Yeah, I think if there's anything that
That's really what it is.
If there's anything that we can guarantee is that the Mannings of all people are not going to rush him to the draft.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to be a rush.
It'll be Eli 2.0 if that happens.
Right. And Thomas S. brings up, and we're going to get back to some other quarterbacks that we can see in the top 10, but Thomas S. in the chat says Texas is also spending $40 million on the team, so that'll make them look good. Thomas, I saw that article. I saw those articles. And here's why I'm confused. Because in the article, it says, yeah, it's $40 million, but it's really 20 because it's the 20.5 from the revenue sharing, from the settlement, plus the 20 that they're conjuring up through their own NIL. But here's the thing. Everybody, first of all, there's not even necessarily rules and legalities on all of those things, so that's not a guarantee. That could be their plan, but who knows to see. There's still a lot that unfold with the settlement over the next couple months. But if that's the case, then all of the teams could pretty much do that. Like Georgia spends about $18, $19, $20 million on their roster, so that would be about $40 million. We know Ohio State spent about $25 on their 2024 national championship team. So if you combine that with their 20.5 from the revenue share, that's $45 million. So I know that I saw the headline and I read it, And I don't know if I'm missing something, but it's like I don't understand why this is that big of a deal, because every team is going to be able to do that. You fill in your team that normally spends $10 million on a roster. Well, they're going to be planning to spend 30, or preparing a plan in case they're able to spend 30. So I just don't know. Like, I don't think they're spending 20 more million than they spent than all the other teams, which is what, when you say, 40 million, there's like, well, last year everybody spent 20. Are they spending 20 more million than every other team? No, they're not. It's probably going to be just about even, just like it was last year, at least with the Georgias, Ohio States, fill in the blanks. All right, back to quarterbacks. So if Arch Manning's not coming out, if he doesn't come out, or regardless of whether he does or not, who are some other quarterbacks? Is the next class, the 2026 NFL QB class, better than this year? Absolutely not even close, without a doubt. All right. You have a lot of guys who, although they have a lot to prove, are better than what Shedeur Sanders was hype-wise a year ago, what Jackson Dart's hype was a year ago. You got Lenore Sellers. You got Garrett Nussmeier, who y'all know I'm very high on. I had him as my top quarterback returning to college football in 2025. You got Cade Klubnik. You got Drew Allar, who people have been waiting on him to, the stock has been rising, and you've been told to buy the stock on Drew Allar for 3 years. Will you finally buy it now? I don't know. But you got Cade Klubnik, Drew Allar, you got Carson Beck that'll be back in the mix. You already got 5 guys right there, not even mentioning Arch Manning, that could potentially be first-round guys. Okay, at this time last year, I don't think I could have named you 5 guys that I would be comfortable saying could very well be first-rounders. Of all of those guys, outside of Arch, which could I see potentially being the highest of them all? I think it is Lenore Sellers or Garrett Nussmeier. I don't know if Carson Beck could play his way in to being the number 1 overall pick, regardless of how he plays. I don't know if that's fair or not. I just don't see it. I could see it with Lenoris. If Lenoris, he had an unbelievable season last year, and you could tell that he's still getting a lot better. Yeah, I think I had 25. I have to go back and check the stats. I think he had 7 picks, and he didn't throw for that many touchdowns. But as the season progressed, you saw him getting better and better each week. And if that continues, watch out. Lenore Sellers could be a top 5 pick. Who knows? Garrett Nussmeier, I think, is the same boat. I don't see Garrett Klubnik or Cade Klubnik. Thank you, Tennessee Nick, or Drew Allar playing their way into the top 5, top 10. I could see them playing their way into the first round. We know how it goes with quarterbacks in the NFL. Nobody would have told you at this point last year that Jackson Dart was going to go in the first round. Now, Tennessee Nick and I might have told you come about late October, early November of last year. Yeah. But you still had to see a lot of SEC play and him go on the road and make throws and all of those things. At this point right now, I think you're way jumping the gun if you have Cade Klubnik or Drew Allar getting a first-round grade. I just don't think it's possible. Now, if Jackson Dart could do it, maybe so could they, but we'll see. Here's the thing. Like I said, this year's upcoming class is already way better. But at the same time, a lot of nobody saw Cam Ward coming, not a first overall pick. So a lot of these things are hard to kind of forecast. Like, nobody saw Joe Burrow being a number 1 overall pick the season before 2019. Nobody saw Jaden Daniels going in the top 5 before he had his season at LSU. Nobody saw Bo Nix going in the first round before his last year at Oregon. Right? Where would you have put Bo Nix before his last year at Oregon, Nick?
If it's based on the Auburn track record, he's maybe a day 3 guy.
Exactly. And he plays his way into the first round. So it's hard to forecast. And could we see even somebody that I didn't name come out of the woodworks and fit their way as a quarterback into the top 5, in the first round? Very possible.
Maybe Iamaleava could after this whole saga. Maybe he goes to UCLA and he does something spectacular and can work his way up. I don't think he does.
Could you imagine?
But potentially, if he's good there, I mean, he could skyrocket. But right now, I think if he plays the way he's played last season when he was a freshman, sure. But if he plays that way the next 2 years, yeah, he's not a first-round guy. And I'm not rooting for him to be a first-round guy. I'm just saying, ultimately, like the play could be there that's named in the long run you don't expect. Well, not for the 26 class, but the 27 class at least.
You're not rooting for Nico Iamaleava.
No, but I'm speaking from now, not a fan, an unbiased take that he could skyrocket at UCLA.
It would be it'd be bad for the game.
Nix wasn't pretty good, YB. Let's be honest. He was average at Auburn at best.
Oh, he
had
looked
flashes.
poor.
He was not good.
Poor.
Lanning made him good, and whoever the OC and quarterback coach at Oregon was, the offense made him good.
Really quick before we'll mention Nico, I want to throw some non-QBs that I saw going often in these way too early mock drafts for next year. You got Caleb Banks, defensive tackle from Florida. Saw him going a lot. You had Caleb Downs, who obviously was at Alabama, goes to Ohio State. Georgia was in on him to the last second. Ohio State paid him just a little bit more. He goes there. This is a guy that from almost his first game as a freshman in Alabama, he was like, oh, yep, that's a top 10 pick. Like Malachi Starks, but a little bit better, where you always knew from his freshman year that he was going to go in the first round. Caleb Downs, you could pretty much lock him in right now as a top 10 pick, and you'd be good on your money. Jermod McCoy from Tennessee might not start the season healthy, but your star cornerback, I saw a lot going in the top 15. C.J. Allen from Georgia, he was the only dog I saw going often. Zach Branch was snuck in there, I think, on one of the 6 or 7 mocks that I looked at. Miami did have one that's Francis Mauigoa, Polynesian name. Not gonna have a high level of confidence that I pronounced that right, but nonetheless, offensive tackle from Miami. They had him in the top 10 quite often. And the last one I want to point out is Anthony Hill. That's the edge from Texas, who looks like, could he be a faster? I mean, could he be a James Pierce, a mix between Pierce and Abdul Carter? Who knows? A lot of those guys were in their top 10, 15, 20 of their recruiting classes coming out of high school. Nick, now that we're a couple years removed, the 2022 class, recruiting class coming out of high school, they just became draft eligible, and a lot of them just got drafted. You want to take a guess at how many of the top 10 in the recruiting rankings just got drafted in the first round of the NFL draft? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, of the top 10 players nationally. Now, who are you using for the top 10? 24/7?
I'm using 24/7, but it was kind of the consensus.
I've got it open here, but I'm not going to look at it.
You beat me to the punch?
Counting 6.
Yes. Wow.
I was about to say, it's not going to be any more than that.
Name them.
Oh, I don't know. The only one I know is Travis Hunter.
Okay, Travis Hunter.
He was the number 1 overall.
He was the number 1 overall. Walter Nolan was 2.
Yeah.
Malachi Starks was 3 or 4th. Yeah. Michael Williams was 7. Josh Connerly, he snuck in the late first round. I think he was 9. And then Shamar Stewart was either 8 or 10. Okay. So that's 6. That doesn't include Drew Allar was in that.
Yeah.
But he's staying another year. Evan Stewart, receiver from Oregon, staying another year. And then Harold Perkins, the linebacker from LSU, who, barring the injury that he had, probably would have been a top 15 pick last year.
Yeah.
But you definitely will be this year as long as he's back on his timetable. If he
has a better season, he's, since that injury is, what was it, sophomore year?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he got cut off in the season, and that's why the stats were bad. But I think he slid pretty bad because of that.
Right. So I just point that out to those who don't pay that much attention to 5 stars and recruiting and all of that. Like, whoever's your top 5 stars, your top 10, it's about a 50% hit rate that they go in the first round. And if Allar, Evan Stewart, Harold Perkins, well, then if you were to look at just the 2022 class, then you'd be at 90%. There was only one guy on there that I have never heard of. I don't know where he's at now. College, he's probably one of those guys that transferred a few places. Maybe injuries played a role. But
who?
I don't remember his name. He was the only one of those 10 that I didn't recognize the name.
Evan Stewart.
Nope. Yeah, I haven't named him. I've named the other 9, but it was in that top 10 of 2022. No, I've named Shamar.
CJ?
Who's that?
Linebacker at Ohio State.
Yeah, what's his Hicks?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't know what he's up to.
He's a senior. He's still there.
I don't know. Yeah, but I don't know if he has any draft, if he's draft profile, anything like that. But you're going to be looking at 90% potentially going into next year, and it's not just 2022. This is time and time over again. We'll come back to that when we get to Jared Curtis, the consensus #1 quarterback in the 2026 class, in just a second. I want to, before we get to a break, mention a guy who, when his name popped up, Nick, I'm not going to lie, I was like, I didn't know this guy still coached football. And that's probably bad, considering the fact that he coaches, just a few hours from here. But that's Clay Helton. Obviously USC. I think he was there for like a decade, head coach from like 2016 to 2021. And they fired him in 2021. He rebounds with Georgia Southern. I see his name pop up, and I'm like, what the heck is this? Nick, if you can throw this picture up for me. I wanted to highlight this because I thought it was actually a massive dub for Clay Helton. So he puts this up. This picture includes, this is Clay Helton going to the graphics department and saying, hey, I need a graphic with these, 20 dudes on it. These are all of the guys that other schools tried to poach, and they stayed. He says, in this new era of college football, we tend to celebrate acquisition more than retention. I would like to take a moment to say how proud we are of the men that are going to be a part of the 2025 team. Not too many teams can say they bring back their starting QB, the whole O-line, top 3 receivers, and their running backs, a loaded secondary, and a deep defensive front. Each had opportunities but chose to be Eagles. The brotherhood is unique and special. Can't wait to take the field with them. Yada, yada, yada. I just thought it was a dub. Just a quick mention from Clay Helton. Didn't know he was still a head coach somewhere, but he's with the Eagles right up north at Georgia Southern. And shouts to this, because you need this. You got to have this. And he's 100% right. We 100% of the time celebrate acquisition more than retention. There was a lot of guys from Georgia that, they were thinking about putting their names in the portal. They did. Maybe they just wanted to kind of renegotiate that contract after they played better than their initial contract represented. They ended up not going to the portal or pulling out of the portal within a day or two, and they stay at Georgia, right? And that wasn't celebrated enough compared to going and getting somebody in it. You need this guy. You need these guys, and I would suspect to see that this isn't the last kind of post like this that we see from a college football coach. One more thing before we get to break. Nick, we've said many times that On3 and all of these kind of recruiting industry kind of companies and social media, whatever, they provide at times some healthy conversations, especially in the offseason for a show like this, right? We've given their graphics department plenty of kudos, even when it was Iamalia. How did they say it? Iamaleavin?
Yeah, or I'm a leaving.
It was gold, right? And with their graphics and all that, they've certainly provided us with more than one topic. Well, a guy who's been doing that far longer and who needs no graphics to do it is a guy by the name of Paul Feinbaum. Obviously, on this show, we really focus on 5 schools: Florida, Georgia, FSU, Miami, UCF, right? As 2 guys that are fans of SEC schools, and kind of a Big 12 school as an alumni, we're going to be tuned into Paul Feinbaum. Now, Paul Feinbaum says, hey, there's one college football coach with elite job security right now. Here's the quote, and you're going to guess who it is. Okay? Here's the quote. It really doesn't matter what the record is this year. because this coach has earned the goodwill of that fan base and really of a lot of people. Who has elite job security right now, Nick?
Well, I'm thinking logically here that it's going to be Kirby, but based off the statement, I want to say it's Heupel.
And you'd be correct.
Well, yeah.
How does that sit with you?
I mean, yeah, I think there is some
elite job security.
Elite's an interesting way to put it. I think his job is secure regardless, unless he goes like 4-8. unless he goes like Florida State last year 2-10, terrible. Heupel's fine. I mean, he got dealt a really interesting blow with the Nico thing between him just leaving that late in spring, needing to find another quarterback, so on and so forth. So, like, if this season goes 8-4, nobody's going to be upset. He got dealt an interesting set of circumstances, plus a ton of recent transfers. Unless the season is just abysmal, yeah, he's pretty well secure for the season. Now, people are going to expect, when Faison Brandon, when he gets in the 26th class and we get him next year, and then you've kind of got this interesting quarterback class. If you got Joey Aguilar, that unless he comes in and throws for like 4,000 yards and looks like a first-round pick, like, Aguilar could be back next season, plus you've got McIntyre and Merklinger, plus Brandon.
Yeah.
You're going to have this loaded quarterback class or this loaded quarterback room that everybody's going to want playing time. So is Faison, is he going to sit on the bench? Or are you going to play Aguilar? Are you going to play Merklinger? Who are you going to play? It's going to be interesting next season. But this season, 8-4 is fine. I don't think anybody's going to be upset. Also, it's going to help him if he at least looks competitive. Like, week 3 is Georgia. That's a big game.
Yes.
Georgia doesn't know where their quarterback's at. They've seen a little bit of them. We've seen a little bit of the other guys in other scenarios. The most we have tape on is Aguilar. So if I'm sitting here thinking who's going to start, it's him. But it's really a perplexing game because we're only going to have 2 weeks to figure ourselves out before that big matchup happens.
Right.
Now, I don't know. Who's Georgia play week 1?
I don't even know.
You know who week 2 is?
Nope.
So they got tune-up games.
Yes. This is like the first year in forever that we've got 2 tune-ups.
We kind of have like a tune-up, but it's like if you're not careful, this is a loss. It's in Syracuse in week 1. Then we got ETSU.
Hey, Fran Brown's coming for heads.
Yeah, but it's a neutral site game in Atlanta, so it'll be interesting. I mean, I'm to digress here. I think he's okay, unless he goes like 2-10, 4-8. Then you got to question it. I think the fan base rallied behind him on the Saturday where he said we're going to move on, and it did a lot for the fan base to rally behind him and see him say that they have faith in the coach. And then he had a really good press conference. I don't know if it was cleared by PR, but he had a good press conference. Like, I don't know if that was, written or what, but he had a good press conference. So I think he did gain a lot of favor in the fan base. Even that he already had a bunch. I mean, you beat Bama twice in 4 years. You get a college football playoff berth. That game doesn't go the way you want it, but nobody's like looking at Heupel questioning do we really want this guy? I've seen some in the fan base chirp, but he's fine. So Paul putting it as elite is odd. Elite security's that's Kirby. You've got 2 national titles in 8-9 years of being there. That's okay. Now, if he starts backsliding like Dabo does, you're going to start to question the job security. But I don't think that'll happen with Kirby. Sure. It'll happen with Dabo. Also, to circle back to your point earlier about Cade, Cade's the old man in college football this coming season. I mean, we played him in the 22 Orange Bowl. It was like his freshman season when I think DJ sucked, so they kicked him out and made him start. So he's got 3 now going into his 4th season. I mean, he's the old man of college football. If he can put it together this year and Dabo finally looking at the portal and getting guys, I think he can shoot into the first round. Not a top 15. He's a back half of the first round, but he can get there pretty easy if he can put it all together this year. But Heupel's secure. Yeah. It's not shocking. I would think Kirby's elite and Josh is just secure with us looking to the future. Like Tennessee fans say, we'll get him next year.
Do they say that?
Well, it's always the joke. People give that to us, and like Spurrier said, man, you can't spill citrus without UT.
Well, that's true.
So, and it is the next thing. It's like, we'll get him next year. We'll see what it looks like in a year's time. And like you said earlier when you were talking about the mock drafts, Jermod's hurt. He's not going to be back until maybe after the Georgia game, which is going to hurt.
Which would be bad, yeah.
It would be bad for us. But if we get him back before that, it's good. But I think Heupel's fine.
Okay. Georgia, by the way, starts with Marshall and Austin P.
Go P.
You know the mascot for Marshall?
Thundering Herd.
Not a baby. Austin P.
Governors.
Gosh.
We played App State 2 years ago, and they gave us fits. The coach then went to UTSA and gave us fits.
I don't know.
Season.
I don't know UTSA's.
The Roadrunners.
That's right. Were they in the tournament?
No,
they weren't in the tournament.
No.
That's pretty good by you.
SMU.
Yeah,
SMU's
Austin P. Governors. That's legit. This is like the first time in forever that we haven't opened with a big time opponent.
Yeah.
Now you would argue last year, or in the last couple that Clemson wasn't, but I mean it was Notre Dame.
You treated them like a tune-up game.
What was it, 38-3?
Something like that.
Crazy. Gosh, I was feeling good after that game. Anyway, here's my question, because as soon as this happened, my immediate question was, did this buy Heupel 2 more losses? And I think the answer is yes, and I think you said yes as well. If he was slated to go 9-3, but he goes 7-5, he's fine, right? Because the fact of the matter is, even without Nico, there was no guarantee that this team would ascend. It would have taken 2 or 3 steps forward from Nico himself just for that team to do what they just did. And it's James Pierce. It's losing 2 defensive tackles in the draft. It's losing multiple receivers to the portal or graduate or whatever.
Yeah.
So here's my question, though. What happens if Nico goes to UCLA, throws for 4,300 yards and 28 touchdowns, and is like actually a first-round caliber quarterback again? What will the narrative be from your fans? Will y'all say, you know what? Heupel was still right. It happened. Will y'all try to come up with, look at the defenses he played, which that will be valid because I'll probably still be in that camp. Or will it be, you know what, like Heupel, you were too stubborn. At the end of the day, we would have won 3 more games with Nico as our quarterback. You should have ponied up the money, Danny White, and paid him. Not what you would say. What will your fan base say?
The fan base is just going to be perplexed, I think, more than anything. Really, and the perplexion is going to come from if he really goes on to say, let's just throw out 3,800 yards, 36 touchdowns, and 11 interceptions.
Okay.
Say it's his stat line, 600 yards on the ground. Combined 4,400 yards, couple scores. He's got 40 total touchdowns.
Sure.
And then say Aguilar, Merklinger, and whatever, they combine for the 3 of them combined for less than that or the same, or one doesn't. Say Aguilar starts and he posts 2,800 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 8 picks. It's going to question, all right, what's the deal? Is it Heupel? Is it Joey Housel? I can see him being perplexed, like, okay, we lost Nico, but there's so many factors. Easier defenses, easier conference. Is it us? Is it the SEC? Is it Heupel? Is it Housel? I mean, there's so many things that are going to cause the perplexion of the fan base. That's why I'm saying is like this season's kind of a wash if they go 8-4, 7-5, whatever. But they're going to look at 26 and think, all right, this is the year that you show me. Okay. It's going to be like his 22 season. We're like, all right, we know what we've got in Hooker. Show me what you can do this season. And there was so much hype in that 22 season. It felt different. I mean, in the game day that day of the Alabama game, it was different. It felt different. But it's going to be, can he recreate that show me kind of thing? And I wildly think Aguilar could kind of be like Hooker, where he brings in transfer guys that somehow like.
Sure.
And Aguilar was kind of prolific at App State. I think he had like 7,000 yards over 2 seasons and however many touchdowns. He had 2 really good seasons at App State. Now you can argue, what are they, American Athletic now? Are they AAC?
Yep.
So it's a softer conference, but still, when you're good, you can compete in any conference. And Hooker didn't look good coming from Virginia Tech when we got him, but he had all the pieces, and Heupel put it together. Now, was it USF's head coach? I can't remember his name, but he was the OC then. Did he really develop Hooker into that? A lot of things are going to go into the perplexity.
Golish?
Yeah, Golish. He was the OC for the first 2 years. He got hired after the 22 season.
Okay.
And he's slowly turning USF around.
Slowly.
Unfortunately, because I like giving Liv a hard time, but it's fine.
I'll never forget it. I mean, he comes from UCF. That's how I know him. And then before he was at Tennessee, and I'll never forget when they play with Alabama, all his post-game sound about, we expect to be in these games and then I think they lost like 6 in a row to you name it schools. You can't even point to them on a map after that.
That was his first year, and they gave Bama fits.
They did. But the funny question, man, what it would be if Drew Aguilar has a better stat line by himself than Nico, or fill in any of the blank on any of those quarterbacks, Merklinger involved. All right, we got to take a break. Look, when we come back, we got a lot from Georgia's recruiting. We got some updates there. We got some updates on UCF. Now, and with Georgia, the conversation becomes, how important is it to you to go get the top quarterback in the class, or to go get the 5-star, to pony up the $2 million, the $2.5 million? And does the Nico situation, just being that it just happened, scare you off a little bit? Does it relax you if you don't get that guy, knowing that, hey, you might have just spared yourself from a lot of problems? Jared Curtis, some conversation on him in just a few minutes. We'll be right back on Stadium Pulse on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models, or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway, or shop online at nimnickbuickgmc.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness. And most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick. GMC. We are professional grade. If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder-grade materials. And there's more, and for that, we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game, too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
2024 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Krasanovich's under-23 men's team. Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season!
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the net for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Welcome back to Stadium Pulse on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network, talking college football as always every Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. Hope everybody's having a good Friday. Appreciate everybody that's hopped in the chat thus far. We got some Georgia recruiting news to get to. We'll start with the pickup they got, I believe that was yesterday or maybe the day before, but they get a tackle who's 6'5", who's going to transition to a guard because he's 6'5". Unfortunately, or fortunately, you can't play tackle at Georgia unless you're 6'6 and a half, 6'7", like Juan Gasson is, the guy that just arrived on campus this semester. But they got Graham Houston. He just committed on Wednesday. I don't even know if his commitment date was even at release. I think it was more of a surprise to every school, not just to Georgia. But he's out of Buford, and he'll be a piece. I'm glad to already know that they're planning to move him to guard, considering how loaded Georgia's tackle room is as of right now. We kind of got some holes future-wise at the guard spot. So just wanted to mention that. That's Graham Houston. And so he's a local kid that just committed. The big news is obviously Jared Curtis, okay? And Jared Curtis is committing on May 5th. So our next show, he will have committed. That's next Monday, Cinco de Mayo. And Jared Curtis is between 2 schools, Oregon and Georgia. He's from Nashville. I don't know where Tennessee was, how far along they were in on him or not, but he's a Nashville kid, and he is right there. I mean, I guess they probably weren't on him because they have Faison coming in, like Nick mentioned about 10 minutes ago. But Faison and Jared Curtis are the top 2 quarterbacks in the 2026 class, okay? It depends on which site you're on and all that stuff. So Jared Curtis was originally committed to Georgia for a while. I think that was back in early 2024. Late in 2024, he decommitted, or at least just reopened his recruitment, opened it up to about 5 schools.
17th,
okay.
Committed.
Yep. About 5 schools, has since dwindled it down to 2, just Oregon and Georgia. Georgia's very much so still in the mix. A lot of people think, again, depending on the site, who you think's got the upper hand. I know that he was hosting some last-minute in-house visits. I know Mike Bobo, I think, was at his house in Nashville in the last day or so. Oregon's offensive coordinator was there as well. 6'4", 225. How about this for a stat line last year at his school in his junior year? 40 touchdowns, 3 picks. Yeah, that'll play. So here's the thing.
I'll say one thing.
Yes.
Tennessee high school football is just all right.
Well, and that's the thing. And he's at Nashville Christian School, which I don't know.
I've never heard of Nashville Christian, so
most obviously.
Like I've heard Brentwood and some of the other schools around, but
sure.
Not Nashville Christian.
I mean, it's just a fact of the matter that most Christian religious schools are lower district, have a lot less. I mean, that would be.
It's not a knock on the school. It's just the state.
Well, I'm just saying that if I had to guess, that might be a 2 or 3A school, and depending on who's in it with them, then maybe. But because he's a 5-star, Nick, and because he's right there at the top, I'm guessing he's playing a lot more than nobody's. But it is worthy of pointing out that we don't know exactly within the state, or do they travel out of state to play games? I don't know, but I know that he threw 40 tuds and had 3 picks. This would be the first 5-star quarterback that Georgia's gotten since 2021. That was when Brock Vandegrift committed, obviously a 5-star. And before that, it was Fields back in 2018. So here's the thing. Georgia, since Vandegrift, the last 4 years, has always complained isn't the right word. And I'll say this is not the entire fan base and does not include me, but some of the fan base has wondered / been concerned, why can't we land the top guy, right? Why can't we land one of the top 3 guys? Obviously, Beck was a 4-star, very highly touted, was not in the top 3, was not a 5-star. Gunnar Stockton, same deal. Puglisi, same deal. And obviously, it was an outlier that they even got Jalen Rashad out of the transfer portal from Florida than Arizona State. That was a weird one, and it still is. By the way, I think he just landed at Sacramento State, which their basketball and football programs are kind of skyrocketing because Shaq, I think, just took over as their GM. But Sacramento State, I don't know what division that is. I don't know, but Jalen Rashad went there. I know a big time. Mikey Williams, that's who it was. If you know that name, we're not a basketball show, and rightfully so. But he was almost the Travis Hunter of basketball as far as hype from middle school through high school. I think he got in trouble, and then he ended up at UCF last year of all places, and is transferring to Sacramento State. So, Nick, you heard of that guy, Mikey Williams?
No.
Atta baby. Hey, we're a football show. That guy had 1 million, I think, followers in like 8th grade as a basketball. He's was always the top guy. Regardless.
The one at UCF?
Yeah. I mean, he was not committed to UCF out of high school, but then got in a bunch of trouble and then ended up there. Anyway, he's at Sacramento State, same as Jalen Rashad. I digress. Georgia has not gotten any top guys. None of the top 3, probably none in the top 5. I'm not sure exactly where Puglisi was at. I don't think he was top 5. Okay. We've wondered why. I've not complained because we're not built off of a quarterback to begin with. Everybody knows that. Would it be nice? Well, at the same time, you're coming off 2 national championships with a walk-on, right? And I know nobody is forgetting that, but I just don't know exactly why we, as a fan base, are so concerned / want to go spend $2.5 million on Jared Curtis or whatever the number would be. It's got to be over $2 million. So let's just plug and play 2.5. Why we want to go pay 2.5 to go get a 5-star guy? Well, that's not what our culture is about. That's not what our roster is about. And when we had the most success and finally won a national championship for the first time in 40 years, we had a walk-on a quarterback. Okay, obviously didn't play like a walk-on, but the point remains. Because, look, if you're paying, let's just say in a couple of years it is the revenue sharing, and that's all you've got. You've got $20.5 million. Well, you're paying Jared Curtis 2.5. Quick math, that's about 20 to 25% of your, 10 to 15% of your total roster if it reaches any above that. Right? If you got $20 million, he's 2, that's 10%. He's going to be more than 2. So am I going to spend 10% hypothetically on one player when I don't even know if he's going to play right away? And guess what? If I pay him $2 million to come and he's not going to play right away because we've got 3 other guys we got, Stockton, who would probably play more than 1 year, Puglisi. You got other guys in that room.
Might transfer, though.
Huh?
Puglisi could transfer, though.
I mean, he could.
Also, 143rd nationally, 10th quarterback. Number 2 in Connecticut. Interesting.
Who?
Puglisi. That's where he ranked finally in stats.
10th quarterback?
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If he's not guaranteed to play right away, what's to say he's not going to do what a lot of these quarterbacks are probably going to do right now? They're going to sign for $2 million. They're going to come for spring. They're going to be a redshirt freshman in the fall. They're never going to see the field, and they're going to transfer out. And you just paid him 10 to 15% of your total roster to not play a single down. Obviously, you're doing that so that when you pay him $2 million, $2.5, $3 for his sophomore year, and if he is what you recruited him as, and he's the best quarterback in the country, then it's 100% worth it. But if we're talking a risk aversion here, there's definitely an argument. The Nico situation plays into that. Even if he does play right away, if he plays better than what a normal freshman should, or guess what? He doesn't even have to play better because Nico sure as heck didn't. And he says, look, I want to double my rate. And you say, hey, we're not going to pay you 25% of our total roster. Well, then you pay $2 million for one season, and that's it. And he's not going to play this year. I can guarantee it, or the following year right away. I'd be shocked if he comes in right away in 2026 and is your week 1 starter. Don't see it happening. It's not the way Kirby does things. Okay, we have no indication that that's how he does it. He wants you to sit through the program, learn it. Even longer. I mean, look at Fields. I mean, case in point. So, and you need more Carson Beck. We had the storyline guy. A lot of people are happy that it's Gunner because Gunner is the backwoods guy who still drives a 40-year-old truck and doesn't care about NIL. That's our quarterback as of right now. Georgia fans are pretty happy about it, and we have a lot of confidence that we can go win football games with it because I don't know how much he's commanding in the NIL world, but I guarantee you it's not more than 5% of the roster. It's got to be less. And then you go spend the money on every other position. You have the best defense in the country like you did in 2021, 2022. Get some receivers in there like you had in 2021, 2022, and you're right back in national championship contention. That's the formula for Georgia. It's not the formula for everybody. And by the way, I say all that to say, if they get Jerry Curtis and he commits and he signs and he's there, I'm going to be pumped about it because we haven't had that type of quarterback yet. But we don't need it. We don't need it. Real quick before we get out of here, some UCF transfer news. They also got a quarterback, not a 5-star, not Jerry Curtis, but it is Kane Archer, 26, 6'1", 210 from Arkansas. So that's their first quarterback in the 2026 class. He credited Mackenzie Milton coming up to visit him, I believe a time or two for him to commit. So at least we're getting a jump start in 2026 in that regard. Yes, I used we for Georgia and UCF in the same minute to have it. Chasen Johnson hits the portal, and I got to say, I try to go easy on some of these guys, but I think I didn't go easy on Nico, and I told you that was wrong. What's wrong with college football in today's world? And Chasen Johnson, I'm probably going to say the same thing to him. So he popped in as a freshman last year, Nick, with 18 tackles, and decided to hit the portal in December. Okay, how about this for a little run? He was committed to USC, dropped it, signed with SMU, dropped it, came back to UCF. He's practiced there in the spring, and now he's in the portal again. Hey, man, pick one.
If I'm a coach, Buddy's never seen the field.
Okay. And look, he was one of the only bright spots in UCF secondary last year. I mean, their secondary got eaten on week in and week out. So to have any semblance of a return, because Mac McWilliams, he just got drafted. B.J. Adams, he just got drafted. I think they were both 6th or 7th round selections. You already, and those were the only two guys. Outside of that, you were getting eaten on. Chasen Johnson comes in late, makes a couple of plays. You're like, all right, well, at least we got one guy returning that we know we can count on. Nope, he's gone. So it's not good from the nice perspective, but at the same time, like, the guy had no loyalty to your school anyway. It's probably not the end of the world that he's gone. I mean, the guy's just flipping a coin based off of where he's going to go to school. Heads, it's SMU, tails, it's USC. If it lands on its side, I'll go back to UCF.
Rolling the dice at this point.
What'd you say?
More like rolling the dice.
Well, he's rolling the dice, yeah. I mean, just pick one, bro. It's not that hard. Anyway, Chasen Johnson, of all people, ends our show today on Stadium Pulse. Had a lot of Arch Manning talk. You can always go back and watch all of our episodes on YouTube, on Twitter. If you're watching us on the app, there are replays of us there as well. We appreciate you watching. Appreciate everybody who's been engaging with us over this off season. We can't wait for things to really ramp up come August and September. And we're going to be right there with you every step of the way. This is Stadium Pulse. Every Friday from 9 a.m. to 10. We're going to have a lot more on the Britton Austin Show coming up in about 5 minutes. Mike Silver from The Athletic visits with us. He was inside the Jags war room watching everything go down. Gladstone, Cohen, Baselli, all of their connections. He'll join us about 11:30. We also talked to Pat Bryant, former AC alum from right around the corner here. He just drafted in the 3rd round by the Broncos. He'll visit with us as well. That's right ahead on the Britton Austin Show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. Have a good Friday, everybody.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models.